Did I get you?
Okay, well, if I didn't, that's okay, because I'm here to talk about all of the horror movies kind of that I watched this year. And by that I mean last year, because a family emergency happened, so now this is coming out in January. So basically a while back for Halloween, I did a special video where I talked about 50 whole horror movies that I watched. And I got thinking in my brain and I said to myself, gee, wouldn't it be cool if 50 became 100? So today we're looking at 50 more movies that I watched in 2024, specifically horror and horror adjacent movies. Okay, let's begin.
Man-eater can't be killed. An endless amount of blood courses through his veins.
Coming in the very absolute last spot is Unnatural from 2015. I believe at one point this movie might have been called Man-Eater. I couldn't tell you. This movie kind of blows my balls, dude. I do not like this one. In fact, I think out of all of the movies I have for you today, this is the one that actually kind of made me angry. Some of them I'm like, yeah, it's fine, or it's really boring, but you know, it's passable. This one just kind of upset me. The people that made this movie, for some reason, in their head, they got thinking, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we made a horror movie where we killed off all of the good, enjoyable, interesting characters first and left it so that you have to sit and watch the unlikable, shitty characters until the very end. And it also killed off all of like the indigenous characters first, which was another thing I didn't appreciate. Genuinely, it's not a good movie regardless. It's just kind of boring. It's not great. It's about a killer polar bear or whatever. You can skip this one. Just trust me when I say that.
A new kind of cookie.
Well, it sure ain't the Pillsbury fucking Doughboy.
Now, sadly, coming up, I have to put the Gingerdead Man from 2005. Alas, not even his extreme derisiveness could help him rank higher on this list. I was hoping it would be a so bad it's good movie, and it's not. The Gingerdead Man is like an hour to an hour and 10 minutes long, and it felt like 3, which is a bad thing. This movie is very long in terms of pacing and very boring, and there honestly wasn't much for me to enjoy. I think, you know, having Mr. Gary Busey himself play the titular Gingerdead Man is fun. It can be fun. There are some good lines. There are some funny deliveries in this movie, but ultimately, I don't care about the characters. I don't even care about the Gingerdead Man. It might be fine for some people, but ultimately, I did just think it was kind of a boring, I felt like I was wading through water trying to get to the finish line, and
Hello.
Mom?
You never listen to me!
Next up, we have The Final Wish from 2019. Yeah, so this one, Lin Shaye's in it, and that's about the most interesting thing I remember about it. Yeah, this is a bad movie. It's like if they took Wishmaster but made it not good. Father Lin Shaye's husband dies, and then he had like antiques, and one of them is like a cursed genie lamp or something, and if you make wishes, bad stuff will happen, and if you make the final wish, the third wish, then the genie is set free and the world is doomed or something. And I hate to say it, but Lin Shaye's performance was a little weird here. I think she's great, but in this movie specifically, it felt off and wrong. And then the rest of the performances, I don't really have much to say about because I just kind of forgot this movie existed.
We have to get out of here.
And then after that, we have Escape Room from 2017. So there are several horror movies called Escape Room, and there are some that are good. I have watched some of those, This was not one of them. Again, this is kind of a more boring movie. It doesn't have a lot going for it. For an escape room movie, you kind of want interesting puzzles and traps and stuff. This one didn't really have it. I think there was maybe like one interesting trap. But also, here's what I have to say about this one. There are three men in this movie. There's a conspiracy theory like knocking around my empty cavernous skull right now that says that they somehow got one guy to play all three guys because they're essentially just the same fucking guy. One of them is like more horny, one of them is more smart, and one of them is more asshole-ish. And really that's it. I mean there are some gals here too, but the plot I couldn't care less about. Watch one of the good escape room movies.
You think that this is proof of Christian divinity? The Bermuda Triangle?
The Devil's Triangle.
Next up, we have Immanence from 2022. And this is where me doing a little bit of research beforehand would have been good. I went into this, and I think a lot of people probably would go into this thinking, oh, it's a Bermuda Triangle alien horror movie. That sounds fun and interesting. So this is actually about God and the devil. The Bermuda Triangle ends up being the place where God, in order to prove his existence, makes these characters interact with the devil from the Bible. I mean, there are some interesting moments in this movie. Ultimately, a lot of it is kind of anticlimactic because they kind of show off the ending in the beginning a little bit and they ruin some of it. Like I said, there are some interesting moments, there are some good performances, but the rest are also kind of like, okay, this is definitely B-movie material here, which can be good. In this one, not so much. But yeah, it's a Bermuda Triangle movie that's actually about the devil. So, I mean, if that interests you, go right ahead, I guess.
Where is that beautiful bride?
She's somewhere in here.
No shit.
And then coming up, we have Till Death Do Us Part from 2023. You guys remember the movie Ready or Not and how that was a good movie? So take Ready or Not and make it less good. A wife decides not to be wife by also not marrying the man. She decides to leave this group that she's a part of, and that's a big problem. That's a big no-no. The groomsmen have to go and stop her from making this decision, which basically just ends up in them trying to kill her, but she's a badass, so she instead does the killing onto them. There are some interesting, fun, stylistic choices here. There's like some fun moments, but also there's a lot of repeat scenarios that happen here, and the general plot, the general intrigue is not as great for me. I think this is very much one of those movies that you would forget after watching it like within a day.
I've heard of spirit photography before, I've just never seen it in person.
Alright, so a while ago I decided I wanted to watch all of the Paranormal Activity movies, and somewhere along the line I ended up having to stop watching them, but eventually I got to where I only had 2 left. And so we have Paranormal Activity, The Ghost Dimension from 2015. This is the worst one, I think. Me personally, I think this is the worst Paranormal Activity movie. I think not all of them are good. I think a lot of them are mediocre, but I think this one is kind of actively bad. It still has some fun moments, which are basically, there because it's a Paranormal Activity movie, but ultimately this one decides to go, hey, you remember what made all those other ones special? You remember how you didn't see the ghost, and so you see things move, or you see like things be thrown across the room? What if we showed you the ghost? Yeah, it kind of ruins it actually. I don't want to see the ghost. I don't want to. That's not what the point of these movies are. So when you then show it, it's just kind of lame and kind of not as scary. And it also has some weird plot where it's some time bullshit. The original family, the two sisters as girls, I think that's the second movie when they made them as girls, are a part of this because they're looking into the future and seeing what's happening currently right now. I don't want to explain it any more than that because my brain would simply explode, but know that it's kind of stupid. I just watch any other Paranormal Activity movie, to be honest.
The sand! It ate everyone!
And next up we have a B movie, The Sand from 2015. Get this, the sand, it's killing people. Not actually, there's like a creature in the sand, essentially, but the sand is killing people, it's eating people. And fucking Mitchell Musso? Mitchell Musso is here. I don't know, this just surprised me, I guess. I wasn't expecting to see him. This one actually is fun. It's definitely a B movie. It definitely has some underwhelming, not very good moments. I'd say like the first entire section is very unnecessary and like just cut it, honestly. But I do think that actually once things start going and once the sand starts being a problem, it is actually kind of enjoyable. I think the characters are relatively fun. Most of them are more stereotypes of characters, but they are enjoyable nonetheless. The weirdest thing about it is that while CG and digital, the gore starts pretty good and pretty fun, and then it gets worse somehow. That was a little disappointing. But there are a couple of enjoyable fun kills if that's what you're looking for. And yeah, I kind of liked it. I kind of liked the threat of the sand. It was fun.
I know her. I made her. That is her.
Next up, we have a lovely little TV movie, and that is Santa Jaws from 2018. There's something that just truly reaches my heart about these TV movies. I just think they're fun, you know? Are they great? Absolutely not. Are they campy? 100%. Santa Jaws fulfills all of those requirements. But it's actually kind of silly, it's kind of funny, and I like the characters. I think I actually like pretty much all of the characters, which is surprising and shocking. I will say the main thing that kind of hinders this movie is that it's never really allowed the time to have actual legitimate, real emotional moments. And so moments like that don't ever really get to thrive. They're just kind of like, well, we need to get going. We need to move the plot along. We can't allow for these genuine, real emotional moments, which is disappointing because even though it's a B movie and a TV movie, I still want that, you know? But ultimately, I do think this is fun. I think the idea of putting a fucking Santa hat on a shark is enjoyable, and I mean, I watch it if you want.
Your classmate, Taylor Fisher, was murdered in her bedroom this morning.
I was just attacked. Sure you were, honey.
So this one seems to be kind of a cult classic, but I'm not sure. This is Detention from 2012, and of course, featuring everyone's sweetheart from the FNAF movie and nothing else, Josh Hutcherson. And God, if I could speak, that would be great. I mean, he's in it, he's good. Shane Lee Caswell is also here, and I think she does a good job. I've never heard of her before, but I like her character and I like her performance. What I appreciate about this movie is that it really goes for a style, and it is extremely 2010s. But what I also don't appreciate about it is that I don't love the style of it all the time. I think sometimes it tries a little too hard, and that's when it kind of loses me. I'd say the horror of this horror comedy, or the comedy, sorry, kind of only lands for me about 50% of the time, which isn't terrible. It could be 0%. It's just kind of like, not my thing, but I do think that it's a fun, stylized movie, and the ending is kind of whatever, man. But the rest of it's good, I think.
You and your kids. You're all dead.
Don't say it, don't think it. Don't say it, don't think it. It's The Bye-Bye Man from 2017. Remember when everyone was blasting this movie for having admittedly a terrible title? I was expecting this to be dog shit based on everyone's making fun of this movie and the title, but it was actually fine. It was good. It was like a very average horror movie. I think the concept itself, which is that you're not supposed to think about the Bye-Bye Man or say the name the Bye-Bye Man, is pretty good. And the way that like it messes with their brains and they kind of like have the de-evolution of their psyche is very fun. The main problem for me is that the Bye-Bye Man himself is not intimidating, is not scary. And also they set up a bunch of different things that could have been cool. Like, this fucker has a dog, like an undead dog. Nothing comes of that. There's a lot of things that they kind of just throw at the wall to see if it sticks, and most of it doesn't because they don't utilize it. So I think that's a shame, and I think this could have been actually a pretty good movie, but instead it just ends up being a mediocre one that I enjoy by quite a decent amount some parts of. And that's what I have to say about The Bye-Bye Man.
It began with a photograph, a single act of unthinkable evil.
So, speaking of stupid horror movie names, now we have The Midnight Meat Train from 2008. Admittedly, this is based off of a Clive Barker short story of the same name, and Clive Barker is responsible for things that I love, such as Hellraiser. This one, it's fine. Has some good moments, has some good ideas, doesn't fully utilize all of them, and then is left being ultimately mediocre. And here's the kicker. Bradley fucking Cooper is the main character. Yeah, he's like a photographer and he is trying to capture the city. He comes across the Midnight Meat Train, which is just this guy that's like theoretically killing people on a train. Except it's not even fucking midnight. It's like, I think it's like 2 or 3 in the morning, 1 in the morning. It's not midnight. They lied. Sorry, that upset me. Moving on. The performances are fine. I think the stylization of this is pretty good. Feels very much like 2008. Kind of akin to like Saw or movies like that. But I do actually like the stylization. I think it's fun. It's a very blue movie. And take that for what you will. Yeah, it's fine.
He's dead.
No, he's not. I'm afraid he is.
This one's a weird one. This is Derailed, like the letter D hyphen railed, from 2018. I wouldn't say this is a good movie, but I surprisingly enjoyed it because it's essentially 5 different movies / horror genres in one, and it just kind of does one after the other. Weirdly enough, that's actually fun to watch. You would think that it would be stupid and silly, and it is. But it's stupid and silly in a good way, methinks. Frankly, most of the characters I don't care about. There may be a couple that I'm like, all right, cool. I'm here for that. I'm here for this. It's a murder mystery. It's a creature movie. It's another creature movie. It's a ghost movie. It's a lot of things. Maybe I just like it because it's kind of trying to do so much, but I don't think it's awful.
If someone bad dies, it's good, right?
I can hear your heartbeat.
Next up, we have Girl from 2020. This is more of a thriller than it is horror, but it features Bella Thorne and Mickey Rourke. If you know who those are, well, at least one of them, congratulations. Me too. Shake It Up. That was my childhood, man. It's just Bella Thorne going to get revenge on her daddy, but then someone else had taken out her daddy, and so she for some reason feels compelled to take care of the people that took care of her father. I like Bella Thorne. I think she's a good actor. And I think Mickey Rourke and the other brother are pretty good characters, enjoyable. The one brother kind of, does he have an incest kink or something? Because like he fully knew what was going on there. A side tangent aside, yeah, it's enjoyable. I like Bella Thorne's doing what she's doing and avoiding these brothers and trying to take care of them, by which I mean get revenge for her daddy.
You want a war? You got one.
And then coming up after that, we have Maximum Overdrive from 1986. And this is the one and only movie that Stephen King has directed. Weirdly, I didn't really enjoy this movie. I just don't think that personally trucks blowing up and all that is like that interesting to me. I'm more of a character person. I do like my dumb fun and dumb action, don't get me wrong, but I wanted more from the rest of the movie, and I didn't get it, sadly. It is fun, it is enjoyable. It's just a little meandering, a little slow, doesn't really know what it's doing. It has a young Giancarlo Esposito before he's even really known, and a Yeardley Smith before she goes on to do the fucking Simpsons. Also, weirdly, this movie has a soundtrack fully done by AC/DC, which I'm a fan of AC/DC, but I'm gonna be so honest with you, it feels weird in this movie. And that might just be a me thing, but it feels weird. I don't know, this horror movie doesn't really feel like horror most of the time. And having AC/DC, I think, is part of what makes it be like, oh, so this is kind of just an action movie. I don't know, the action is fun. I feel like this movie alone accounts for at least 50% of 1986's CO2 emissions. So, I mean, I don't know if I applaud it for that, but I'm impressed nonetheless. I don't know. It's like trucks killing people. I don't think there's more for me to say.
In a world where the dead walk among the living, nothing is as it seems.
And wouldn't you know it, we have another Bella Thorne movie with I Still See You from 2018. Dermot Mulroney is here as well. He's I know him from Scream, because I like the Scream movies. What if Thanos Snap left weird apparitions of people behind, and then there's a whole mystery behind it and all that? I think it's a weirdly compelling plot. It's not the most unique thing. It's not the most exciting. It's not the most horrific. This is kind of, again, more of a thriller. Again, I like the performances. They're good. It's basically one of these apparitions of a ghost of a person who's no longer here, is basically trying to theoretically kill Bella Thorne's character. And that's what starts it all.
Chillerama, you'll marvel at the madness.
And now we have an anthology movie called Chillerama from 2011. This is one of those more going for like edgy humor from the era, basically. I like some segments. I don't really like others. Well, they're fine. It's not that I hated them. It's just I didn't enjoy them as much. They weren't as funny to me. The first segment is Godzilla, but a large sperm. And I know at least one person that would hate that violently. And like kind of same, honestly. Oddly enough, it feels wholesome in a way. Lynche is in this as well in 2 segments. And she gets killed by Spermzilla, Wadzilla. And also warns a character not to be gay. Listen, all I can say is I actually weirdly had fun watching this. And seeing Joel David Moore play Adolf Hitler was certainly not on my list of things I was expecting from 2024. And yet here I am.
I got a natural high, a supernatural high.
And now we have the dog himself in Bones from 2001. I don't know, a lot of people really love this movie. I think it's pretty fun. I don't know, I think the main thing I like about it is the characters and the performances. I think everyone pretty much does a great job, but the plot itself is not that interesting to me. I like a Jimmy Bones' backstory, but also this is a movie from 2001, so a lot of things kind of feel random and disjointed, and I don't know, it could have been better in my opinion. And I will say, I didn't really love the way that this movie evolved into horror comedy more. Originally, it was more straight up horror, which was more compelling and interesting to me. And then it went into a ridiculous comedy side of things that I do think are fun and appealing, but like within the same movie, it just creates this weird disjointed feeling. But I know not everyone agrees with me on that. But me personally, that's how I felt, and I'm sorry. Okay, so in the last 50 movies video I did, I watched the original Cube movie. And so I decided, hey, let's watch all of the Cube movies, because why not? So now I have Cube from 2021, and this is a Japanese remake of the original. In general, I don't really love remakes. I'm not a big fan of them. I think a lot of times they just end up being derivative, like unnecessary. I don't know, it's like let the original stand for itself. But I did actually think that this was a good movie. I thought that it wasn't as good as the original, but it at least did new things that I appreciated it doing. I don't think you ever really see outside of the cube in the first original movie. This one, there are flashbacks that happen that are outside of the cube, which gives it some more depth to the characters. And it feels a little weird, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't know, it's like the original Cube movie, a little bit worse in my opinion, but still enjoyable, still good. And if you want to watch all the Cube movies, I'm not gonna tell you not to, because I think they're all perfectly good movies.
Anyone here?
Terror has a new dimension.
Speaking of Cube, next up we have Cube 2 Hypercube from 2002. That's right, it's my birth year. And what do I get? In my opinion, the worst movie out of the original Cube trilogy. I mean, they go ultra sci-fi with this one. They add it's a hypercube. They go into fourth dimensional shit, or fifth. I don't know what it is. I just don't think I liked the hyper science fiction of it all. I mean, obviously the original is science fiction, but I think this one tries a little too hard to evolve from the original format. I also just don't think the characters are as interesting. It's just like kind of fine in my opinion. I think people are going to disagree with me saying this is my least favorite, but that's just my opinion, man.
I think Chucky did something.
Spoiler alert, The original Child's Play movie is on this list. It's in this video. Because I knew I was doing this video, I thought it would be interesting to watch Child's Play from 2019. Again, I am not a fan of remakes. I will commend this one for actually doing new stuff and kind of making it more modern. But ultimately, I don't like how this movie was made. I don't like that it was essentially made with Don Mancini not really fully approving of it, because Don Mancini is stuck with the franchise, which I love, by the way. I love the franchise. I love what he's done with it. So I don't love that this just kind of is an example of like cinematic greed and the greed that we see in Hollywood, and just, yeah, I didn't appreciate that so much. As a movie, it's good. It's a good, enjoyable horror movie. As a Child's Play or Chucky movie, I don't love it. Chucky is basically a computer program now, which makes him just less interesting. He doesn't have as much personality, which is what I want from the little fucking bastard. I think if you can't have Brad Dourif, Mark Hamill's probably the best thing, the next best thing you can do. But it's still, it's still not great. I think Gabriel Bateman is an interesting character. He is the Andy. I like Andy's character in this movie as a standalone thing. As a version of Andy from Child's Play, I don't love it. Aubrey Plaza and Brian Tyree Henry are in this movie, but the problem is they're not utilized. They could have been great, but they don't do enough with the characters for me to care, for me to give a shit. Let them do more.
She's gonna die in there, and she's probably innocent.
And then finally, we have the last Cube movie, Cube Zero from 2004. And people are gonna fucking hate me for saying that I think Cube Zero is maybe, just maybe, the best Cube movie in the entire franchise. And it's okay, get your pitchforks out now, get your little torches, do what you gotta do, alright? But let me explain myself. I think the Cube movies are at their peak when they're leaning on the side of so bad it's good, or just kind of dumb fun. This right here, this is the epitome of dumb fun to me. I know that people are like, oh, ruin the thing because you get to see behind the scenes, and I thought that was fun because it's stupid. It doesn't make sense. It's fun. Fucking Michael Riley plays a character in this movie that is so ridiculous that I can't help but love him. Also, like the main two leads are great. This movie does some weird stuff in order to play into the original, and I didn't love that. I thought it was unnecessary. Other than that, I think this movie is some of the most dumb fun you'll have.
I can't use that.
Just point and shoot. Everybody get down!
And coming up, we have The Hunt from 2020. For some reason, I feel like people didn't really love this movie, but I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun. I really enjoy the way that it pokes fun at both ends of the spectrum of the class divide. It's not just making fun of the higher up elite rich people. It is also making fun of country hicks, so to speak. I mean, I'm essentially a hick myself, so I'm fucking allowed, all right? By far, my favorite part of this movie is Betty Gilpin. Her character is the lead, and I fucking love her in this movie. I like the plot of the movie. I like everything it does. I don't know, there's great action, there's great little thriller horror sequences, and I fucking love the ending. All in all, I came out of watching this going, yeah, that was a fun time.
We're looking at the first proof of life beyond Earth.
Coming up, we have a big ol' stacked cast with Life from 2017. We have Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, Rebecca Ferguson, Hiroyuki Sanada, and then the other people that I don't really recognize as much, but they're here too. And me not recognizing them doesn't mean I don't think they were great. I think they were I think they were really good. But yeah, this is it's a space movie. It certainly takes its influences from Alien and all that. I mean, it kind of has to, but it's a life form that is rapidly evolving, and these people on, I think they're on the ISS, the International Space Station. Once that life form becomes an issue, they have to find a way to deal with it as it slowly kills people off. I think it's a great movie. I think there are some really enjoyable, actual good horror thriller sequences in this. And again, I think the ending is really enjoyable. You might be able to see it coming, but nonetheless, I enjoyed it.
Careful with that, dear. I'd hate for you to start something you can't stop.
All right, Ryan, don't get this mixed up. It's okay. Yeah, it's just you gotta reorder them. You gotta reorder them a little bit. We have Gretel and Hansel from 2020. And yes, it does hurt to say Gretel and Hansel instead of Hansel and Gretel. Sophia Lillis is in here. She does a great job. Alice Krige plays the witch, and she fucking knocks it out of the park. I love the portrayal of the witch in this movie. But ultimately, here's what I'll say about Gretel and Hansel, because I don't need to say a whole lot. I really like the two characters that I mentioned. They're great. And I really like the aesthetic and vibes of this movie. It's great. The rest of the movie, the plot, it's fine. It's okay. The sequences, the horror moments, all of that, it's mediocre. It's all right. But the things that I said were great, they're actually pretty great, and I like it. All right, next up we have a Japanese movie, Audition, from 2000. I think it might have been 1999 in Japan and 2000 in the US. I might be wrong about that. This is a movie that I think pretty much everyone praises, and I can see why, but I don't think... Here's my hot take. This movie isn't actually that interesting. It is very unsettling, and I love the ideas behind it, but other than that, I think it's kind of boring. The main three characters are played and performed incredibly, and I really like everything that they do for this movie. This movie is very much one half and another half. The first half is trying to be more genuine and real, and the second half is trying to be more horror and unsettling. Put together, I like the idea of having those two sides, but it does feel, I don't feel like the transition there is as great as it should be. I love the theme of this movie, which is basically touching on the way that women are often objectified or literally made into objects, and nothing exemplifies that point better than the literal audition that takes place in this movie. That made me crawl in my skin for not horror reasons, but for real genuine me brain I hate this reasons. And then everything else, it's unsettling. It's I don't know how to explain it. It's a movie, and I think you should maybe watch it. All right, next up we have another Adam Green movie with Frozen, not the Elsa one, from 2010. This is akin to those, whatever the meters down one and the one where they're up in the sky. It's three people get stuck on a chair or a ski lift. If you know Adam Green at all, you can guess how the dialogue is going to be. But I thought that this was genuinely pretty cool. I like the gore. I like the moments. I like the scary parts. And I like the genuine kind of real emotional heart that it has at times. And I think it's a good movie.
The makers of Basket Case and Brain Damage bring you...
Want a date?
Frankenhooker.
Coming up next, we have Frankenhooker from 1990. And this is just a real funny, fun movie from 1990. Frankenhooker herself played by Patty Mullen, is incredible. I also really like James Lorenz's portrayal of Jeffrey. I think the characters are really enjoyable, and the main issue I have is that the titular Frankenhooker doesn't show up until a decent amount way through this movie, and I would like to see more of her because I think she's great. I think that Frank Henenlotter makes movies that I just find really fun and enjoyable. There's just a lot of fun stuff in here, and the performances are kind of a standout for me, and I think this is a good movie that has a really silly, stupid plot.
My convoy was ambushed. I got hit in the head. I blacked out, and that's the last thing I remember.
Next up, I don't know if anyone would consider this horror, but it's a thriller, and again, like I said, it's like 47 meters down. It's like Frozen. It's Buried from 2010, and this is starring Ryan Reynolds. Basically, he's buried alive, and they want ransom from the United States to save him. If you're claustrophobic at all, this is genuinely an unsettling movie, and I think that's why I decided to ultimately include it, because it is horrific. I think Ryan Reynolds should do more serious roles. He does still have some of that smarm that Ryan Reynolds is known for in this, but I do think that he is able to have some real genuine good serious performances, and by serious I mean not comedic. I think this is genuinely unsettling and horrific if you are at all claustrophobic, and also just in general, being buried alive, not very much something I would want to do. So this movie, pretty good, pretty terrific, horrible portrayal of it. And I bet you weren't expecting this, because even I wasn't expecting this. Next, we have Paranormal Activity Next of Kin from 2021. I believe this is like a straight to Paramount Plus movie, and originally I definitely rated it lower, but I kept moving it up because I genuinely kind of fucking loved this movie. What I like about it is that it decides to ignore all the shit from the previous movies and do its own thing. Basically, it's about this girl who has discovered her family, and it turns out they're Amish, and so she wants to make a documentary about this, so that's where the found footage recording of things comes into play. So she goes out with a couple of her friends to her Amish family site, and needless to say, things are fucked up. I like the horror of it a lot, actually. I think it's fairly effectively scary movie. I like the plot points. I like the setting. I like having a movie that kind of centers around the Amish in this sense. So yeah, this is a surprising standout of the year for me.
I do not like uninvited guests.
Speaking of surprising standouts, we have Play Dead from 2022. This is a Tubi original horror movie. And if you hear those words and you're like, oh, it can't be good, that's what I thought. But then it was surprisingly good, and I quite enjoyed it. It's this girl that breaks into a morgue, basically. Turns out the coroner is an evil man. Basically abides from the fucking book of Jigsaw or something, because he's like, I'm doing things for good. I bet you've never properly earned your own wages. I bet you like to skip your way through life. It's like, brother, you're fucking selling organs illegally. There's nothing honest about that. You're sending those organs to fucking rich people. There's nothing good about that. I found that really funny though, the way that it reminded me of Jigsaw, and that made me laugh. I genuinely really enjoyed the story of this, and I think there are some good scares, good tense moments. And next up, we have what might be one of the only movies I watched in theaters, Terrifier 3 from 2024. I think the Terrifier movies, this is a controversial take, I think they're a little bit boring and a little uninteresting. But, however, I think that Art the Clown is a genuine new icon of horror, and I think he is truly special. And what I loved about Terrifier 3 is that I think they're starting to get a lot better at making an actually compelling story with compelling characters. Lauren Lavera playing Sienna Shaw and Elliot Fullman playing Jonathan Shaw. And of course, David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown himself. I think they all do a fantastic job playing the characters, and I really love the heart and the genuine intrigue that there is in this movie. Like, you actually root for the characters, which in a movie featuring Art the Clown, which is just a gore fest, let's be honest. All right, I actually care about the characters. That's great. Good job.
The water is filled with carnivorous fish.
Piranha.
Next up, we have one of the older movies on this list, and that is Piranha from 1978. I put this on here because I kind of wanted to get a real genuine creature movie, and I know I had like Santa Jaws, but you know what I mean by that, hopefully. I was shocked with how much I enjoyed it. The two main characters, played by Heather Menzies and Bradford Dillman, are really super enjoyable to me. I think part of why I'm ranking this so high is because the action sequence and the horror sequences are great. They went hard on them, and I really appreciate that, but also there are some really funny moments. Might be one of my favorite clips from a horror movie in general this year, and I really enjoyed Piranha from 1978. It's a good movie.
Nationwide victims.
Yeah, this is Will Graham of the FBI.
Earlier this year, I also did a horror tier list where I ranked horror characters, and I wanted to be able to put some of those characters that I hadn't actually seen on this list. And one of those was Hannibal Lecter and or Francis Dolarhyde. And so I have Manhunter from 1986. And I know it's not the highly acclaimed Silence of the Lambs and all that won an Oscar performance. Shut up, okay? I love the Red Dragon story from the book, and I think that this is a pretty good portrayal of that. I genuinely love William Peterson's portrayal of Will Graham. Will Graham is really important to me to get right as a character, and I think he nails it. Tom Noonan plays Francis Dolarhyde. I think he's pretty good. It genuinely kind of bothers me that people glance over Francis Dolarhyde as a character because Hannibal Lecter exists. If you have to know, I think Hannibal Lecter is good in this movie, but I also think Francis Dolarhyde is good. I really like seeing all the actual technical stuff, the equipment from the 80s that are here and present. I just don't like the ending. The book is much better in terms of the ending. Next up, we have a South Korean film from 2017 called The Mimic. Yeah, this is just kind of an unsettling one. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's that original or that unique, but I do like it, and it does some fun stuff. They find a little girl who just supposedly has the same name as their own daughter. There's an entity that mimics people and all that. There's a lot of fun stuff here. There's one little running plot line that I actually wasn't expecting that made me go, oh, you're actually going kind of hard here. The more contact they have with this entity, their eyesight kind of starts to go. And I thought that was a genius thing that I would not have thought of, but I thought that was really cool, and I think this movie's pretty cool too.
I run my mind. It doesn't run me.
Alright, next up we have Black Box from 2020. I think this is an Amazon original. It's psychological brain stuff, but it has good horror elements too, and I genuinely can't say much about this one because a large part of my enjoyment comes from the story and the twist. And I don't want to spoil that at all. Just know that it has a really fun twist. I think it's a great idea that's not always done perfectly, but it is done well.
No one ever will separate us.
Next up, we have a surprising great from me, and that is Marrowbone from 2017. We have fucking George McKay. We have Anya Taylor-Joy. We have Charlie Heaton. We have Mia Goth. This cast is full, man. Let me tell you. But I absolutely enjoyed this one. This is another one that I can't talk about too much. It's great for reasons that I can't explain or talk about without spoilers, but know that I think the horror aspects are really enjoyable, and I love the mystery behind everything, and I just love how this family intermingles with each other and how that is important to the plot.
Dracula.
Next up, I wanted to get a classic vampire in the mix, and that is Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992. This is made by Francis Ford Coppola or directed by him. Again, we have fucking Gary Oldman, we have Winona Ryder, we have Anthony Hopkins, we have Keanu Reeves. Another big old cast. I like this form of Dracula quite a lot. I think it's very fun. A lot of people say that Keanu Reeves doesn't really do a good job in this movie, and yeah, he has his Keanu Reeves isms, but I thought he was fine. I had no problem with him, really. If you know the story of Dracula, then you know where this is going. It's kind of a horny movie. It's Dracula. I like it. I really like Coppola's style and take on the story, and that's what I have to say about it.
You'll become...
I know. A monster.
And then from a vampire to a woofy boy, we have An American Werewolf in London from 1981. Obviously, the practical effects are incredible. I will say there are a lot of parts of this movie that I really enjoy. I really enjoy the performances from David Naughton, Jenny Agutter, and Griffin Dunne, I don't know. There are a lot of aspects of this movie that I enjoy, but there are also some parts that are just kind of boring and feel weird and unnecessary to me. Weirdly, I really love the scene in the porn theater. Sounds wrong saying that, but it's true.
I am so sorry for what your daddy passed down to you.
And this is the one that people are gonna be like, that's not a horror movie. Shut up. It's my list. Beau Is Afraid from 2023. So this is directed by Ari Aster, who made Midsommar, who made Hereditary. I love Ari Aster, and I think this is a really good movie. It's a little long, by which I mean it's 3 hours long, and it's not always horror, but there are certainly horror aspects and a lot of horrific moments that I would say are horror. A lot of this is psychological. A lot of this leans more into the psychological side of horror, but I do really like it. Joaquin Phoenix, I really like him in this movie, and he does a good job. And basically, this is kind of a movie that feels a little like an anthology because you go from segment to segment that are all connected, all the same character, but they're very stylistically unique, and that's just very fun for me. I like movies that are stylistic, that are unique, that try to do their own thing, and I really appreciate that about Beau Is Afraid, and I'm really excited to see what Ari Aster does next.
It has begun!
And then you're gonna yell at me because it's another movie that isn't really horror, but I have 52 movies in this list. I'm allowed a couple. Also, it's Mortal Kombat from 1995, and Dead Meat James did a kill count on it, so it is allowed, motherfuckers. Yeah, I'm a massive Mortal Kombat fan. I love Mortal Kombat. I love the camp of this. It's a movie from 1995. I really like the performances. They're not the best performances in terms of like actual acting ability and all that, but in terms of like kind of getting that campy vibe, I love it. There's some parts that aren't as great, like why you gotta reduce the ninjas so much, why they gotta be so useless, you know? Ultimately, this is an enjoyable movie, and I'm glad to have watched it. We have a cult classic now with The Descent from 2005. And so I put a little snippet from the trailers for each movie. Doesn't that girl yelling sound like Elmo a little bit? When I was watching the movie and that happened, that was really funny to me. The rest of the movie's great though. Again, if you don't like claustrophobia, this is a scary one. It does a really good job in the beginning of being claustrophobic and tense in that sense of the nature, and then it shifts into being more of a creature movie where you have all the fucking little cave goblins and whatnot that I like as well. I just really like the two main characters. Shauna McDonald and Natalie Mendoza do a great job. It is a movie from 2005 for sure, but it's a really good horror movie.
We even have almost conversations sometimes.
Next up, we have a surprising one with Warm Bodies from 2013, and this is a horror comedy. The main zombie is played by Nicholas Hoult, and the main girl is played by Teresa Palmer. This is a romantic comedy horror between zombie and human, and I don't really know how else to say this, but I'm kind of in love with this movie. I don't think this is like a groundbreaking movie in any sense of the name. I feel like plot-wise, it's kind of generic. You've seen it before, but for some fucking reason, this is a great movie. Also, this is kind of what made me fall in love with Nicholas Hoult. I think he does so good. So good. And another recent movie, we have A Quiet Place Day One from 2024. This one I absolutely adore. I love Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. I think they're great. Also, Alex Wolff is here. It's great stuff. I like the original Quiet Place movie. The sequel's fine. It's okay. This one worried me. I'm not gonna lie. Also, there's a kitty. There's a little kitty cat that I love. I like the idea of putting us in New York City, one of like the loudest places on earth potentially. The horror and thriller aspects are not great. I'm going to be honest. It's very reliant on jump scares and kind of anticlimactic in that sense. But the actual storyline, the characters themselves are great and they're tear jerkers for me. I cried, and that's why I like this movie more than anything else. Another one that I wanted to get on the list because I hadn't seen it but ranked it in my tier list, Little Shop of Horrors from 1986. Audrey 2, incredible. I mean, let's just get out of the way. All of the performances, all of the songs are great. I'm not usually a musical guy. I don't love musicals that much, but this was really enjoyable. Rick Moranis, Ellen Greene, Vincent Gardenia, Levi Stubbs, even Steve Martin, they're all great. Audrey is a great character. I see Seymour is a great character. I see why this is so good now. The plot itself, it's a musical. The practical effects are great. The puppetry is great. Even the fucking set design and art design is great. And I love Levi Stubbs. I love his voice. Great job.
We can play mommy and daddy.
No way.
Now we have a classic iconic one with Jennifer's Body from 2009. I love it because it's kind of gay. Kind of like really gay, actually. Megan Fox does a good job. What's her name? Amanda Seyfried does a great job. This is a cult classic for a reason. I like Jennifer, and I like the conflict between Jennifer and Needy, and they're both great. And I don't know. It's just really enjoyable. Also, seeing a goth Kyle Gallner was not what I was expecting to see, but I did, and I love it.
If you're out here looking for Candyman, you ask me, stay away.
Now we have Candyman from 2021, and this is not a remake, this is an actual sequel, which I appreciate because it's new, and it's actually very high on my list. I wasn't expecting it to be. Tony Todd recently passed, and I love Tony Todd. He is a big inspiration to me, and the original Candyman movie is one of the things that got me into horror movies, and I will always love and appreciate him and that movie for that. This movie is actually really good. People were underwhelmed by it and whatever, and Frankly, I don't care what people say. I loved it. The only thing that's not as enjoyable is the fact that Candyman himself doesn't really get a voice for most of the movie, and that's a little upsetting. And the main complaint I see is people are like, oh, the dialogue and all that is too on the nose. They're being too, it's like, I get it. I understand it. But also, these are artists and educated people, and they're talking with their friends and with their peers. That is how they're going to talk, because that's how I talk about things with my friends. So that didn't bother me that much, but I understand it. I just don't agree with it. I loved Candyman 2021. Rest in peace, Tony Todd.
Wherever you are, it's somewhere walking straight for you. All you can do is pass it along to someone else.
And then we have It Follows from 2015, another cult classic. I fucking loved this movie. Disaster piece. One of the best, I think, soundtracks to a movie ever. I'm not gonna fucking lie to you. I'm not gonna hold your hand when I say it either. I mean that, okay? I'm gonna be honest. Micah Monroe and all the others, I think their characters and their performances aren't the most special part of this movie. I truly love the idea and the themes of it all, and I love how it's shot, how it's shown, and the stylization of it. I love It Follows. It deserves to be number 5 on my list. It's a great movie. It is. Next up, we have another South Korean film with The Wailing from 2016. This is another kind of long one. It's like 2.5 hours. And the weird thing that I love about it is that it starts off being a hilarious horror movie that I fucking love. And then it ends up being a really scary, confusing horror movie that I fucking love. The location, the setting, the cinematography, the performances, they're all phenomenal. Trigger warning for this one though, there is some definite like xenophobia here. And I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the matter, but there is like a genuine like real deep history that I think kind of informs the xenophobia here. So just know that is present. If you're looking for a great non-English movie, I highly recommend The Wailing.
The Blob. Terror has no shape.
Coming in at number 3, we have The Blob from 1988. This is just, I wasn't expecting it to be good, but it was fucking great. This is one of those horror movies that is just so fun. You know, a lot of horror movies are great because they're scary or they're tense or this and that. This one's great because it's a fun fucking watch, dude. I have not watched a more fun movie in a long time. I love it. The effects are great. The Blob itself is incredible. Even the main characters are great. I think so much great is going for this movie. Definitely A+ S tier movie that I would recommend anyone watch. Coming in at number 2, might be the oldest on the list. I don't remember. We have the original Black Christmas from 1974. Again, when I was watching and planning to have this uploaded, this would have been more timely. But I love Black Christmas. The villain is one of the most disturbing villains for me. And I think the reason I put this above the Blob is because while I would probably recommend the Blob more, because it's more fun and a genuine watch, I think Black Christmas has the horror factor nailed. The guy on the phone, I fucking love that. Genuinely, very uncomfortable stuff there. Watch it. It's good.
There's nothing nice about murder, and there's nothing innocent about child's play.
And then I watched the original Child's Play from 1988, and that goes in my number 1 spot. It's Child's Play. I love Chucky. I love the original plot, and I think this is a very good horror movie. Very good, like in terms of scares. Also, can I just say, Alex Vincent as Andy might be one of the cutest kids I've ever seen in a movie ever. That's all I have to say. I've gone through all the movies. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for me, let me know, and I look forward to them. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video.